2018 Aston Martin Vanquish car review. The dinosaurs didn't know extinction was coming. They sustained romping and stomping because Sky considered fire, which meteor acquired much of Mexico. In a similar vein, we doubt anyone at Aston Martin continues to be brave enough to see the venerable Vanquish that it's living for the far end connected with an overdraft of borrowed time. This is a motor vehicle that sits while on an architecture that Awachi continues to be replaced and which can be still powered because of the gloriously anachronistic naturally aspirated V12 that Aston may be using for up to 2 decades. The good points of 2018 Aston Martin Vanquish. Naturally aspirated V12 sounds glorious, still beautiful 4 years if we first watched it. The bad points of 2018 Aston Martin Vanquish. Makes less power over a DB11 but costs additional. Aged architecture doesn't allow technology advances features. But as you move, the new, turbocharged DB11 is definitely an empirically better car by virtually any metric where you will employ. It can't match the exclusivity of Aston's range topper. Buyers who choose the Vanquish should find an added $80,000 to obtain a car with less equipment and fewer power than its supposedly junior sister DB11, which costs only $214,820. But they will quickly realize themselves with the pinnacle of Mount Aston. It's impossible to never see the continued selling point of this grandest of grand tourers. A motor vehicle that makes a Bentley Continental GT resemble something bought at Sears. Now, the Vanquish is given the last freshening as well as the deployment with the S badges that Aston reserves because of its ultimate incarnations. The Vanquish S gets more power, even though the increase have to be well within the margin of variation on the non-S engine. A fractionally freer-flowing intake system aims to sharpen the highest end inside the 5.9-liter V12 and takes the output up 12 horsepower to 580 horsepower, still 20 horses lower than the new twin-turbocharged V12 inside DB11. Strangely, Aston claims a larger, 595 horsepower output for your engine in European spec, though it says the engine is inside same state of tune while offering no other explanation. Close to screaming. None of that really matters. The Vanquish is still equipped with a naturally aspirated Aston Martin V12 that is certainly one with the finest engines inside the world. It's special from the minute it fires into noisy life, which has a leonine snarl. Most automakers who still produce V12s tune the crooks to sound soft and creamy, though the Vanquish S's engine is loud and quite often angry. Its character shifts with both revs and load, sometimes yowling and sometimes, when closing in on its 7,000 revolutions per minute limiter, close to screaming. Yet it doesn't quite are able to deliver a corresponding number of fury. The Aston is perhaps fast. The company claims a 201 miles per hour top speed plus a 3.5 second 0 to 62 mph time, 0.3 second brisker versus the stated acceleration time for that non-S Vanquish. The very last standard Vanquish we tested sprinted to 60 miles per hour in 3.6 seconds. Yet it lacks the almost instant lowdown urge that comes from turbocharging, which many similarly priced competitors now deliver. The big engine pulls cleanly at low RPM, but it really needs to be worked, not easy to truly deliver, and Aston claims that power peaks right in the 7,000 revolutions per minute redline, 350 revolutions per minute higher than inside the standard Vanquish. The upside of natural aspiration is throttle response remains scintillating, along with the standard 8-speed ZF Autobox may be retuned to shift with additional aggression. Changes meant to the Vanquish S's chassis, although modest, have experienced a greater, and counterintuitive, effect. Spring rates have already been stiffened by 10%. These on top from the 10% enhanced the Vanquish was presented in 2015, and there's fashionable brawnier rear anti-roll bar and firmer suspension bushings. Yet expectations that toughening will improve the hardness from the Aston's core seem from the marque. It actually feels noticeably more compliant than before, riding out bumps and rougher road surfaces with impressive disdain. We're told the broadened bandwidth thought to be mostly credited with a smarter algorithm manipulating the Bilstein adaptive dampers, allowing those to react more speedily. Still big but nimbler. The Vanquish S still feels big, nevertheless it can be hustled with an impressive pace on account of high grip levels and accurate steering responses, that contain also taken advantage of the suspension sharpening. The steering has gained a few pounds over the non-Vanquish, but with no decrease in feel. We're still not thinking about the squared-off tire, though. What's wrong with round? Driving on cold and greasy English roads revealed another advantage with the engine's relative deficiency of low-down torque. The Vanquish is able to find impressive traction where turbo rivals can be battling their traction control systems. Aerodynamic modifications have likewise reduced front-end lift at speed. Aston says this falls from 146 pounds to 40 when traveling at 150 miles per hour. We had no chance to ensure this. Inside, the hand-finished cabin continues virtually as before, with beautiful materials and chic design mostly distracting occupants through the reality that there really isn't significantly to play with. Aston's aged V8 architecture ensures that plenty in the stuff you'd find using a mainstream car costing a tenth from the sticker using a Vanquish S just isn't there. There's no adaptive cruise, blind spot monitoring, or automated emergency braking. Would James Bond care? Also, the navigation system may be upgraded on the watchful 2005-ish Volvo system that Aston previously used to something could be accurately referred to as half-cent. Trying to quantify the Vanquish S by rational criteria is surely an exercise doomed to failure. It is more expensive as opposed to DB11 but is usually much less spacious, slower, and with a lot less equipment. Offered in side coupe form we drove $297,775 as well as a convertible Volante $315,775 that people haven't experienced yet. It's due in dealerships come April. It is still hugely desirable along with the car perhaps sticks nearest to the values that made Aston great. We will miss it if it departs. Even so the grand old dame goes out in style.